today. I'd like to introduce Dominic Barker from the Hats Off Partnership, business development and marketing consultancy. He has a background in commercial radio, leading sales teams for household names such as Capital FM, Classic FM, and Heart FM. His career moved into business management, running radio stations throughout the UK, and then on to digital media properties, including global roles with market-leading platforms such as Audio Booms and Getty Images. Since 2016, he has used this experience to work with small businesses with two basic objectives in mind to help them grow and achieve their business goals. Please post questions in the chat box for our question and answer session afterwards. And we're now going to mute everyone. And over to you, Dominic.
Wow, thank you.
Need to unmute yourself, Dominic.
Sorry, just let me share this screen. Rob, if you can tell me when it's in the right place.
Yeah, it's looking good. I think yeah.
Bear with me 1 second. There we go. Okie dokie. Let's just move that way. Good morning, everybody. Jackie, thank you very much for that very flattering introduction. That's very kind of you. Yes, I'll tell you a bit more in a second. But the basis of my presentation this morning is just some hints and tips, really, in terms of developing a successful sales and commercial strategy for an SME. More than happy to take any questions at the end. But in terms of a bit more about me, Jackie, thank you for that. That's very nice. I did spend a long time in media and advertising sales. One of my first jobs was actually in radio, and it really does get hold of you, and it sort of gets under your skin. So I've worked at the likes of Capital Radio, Heart, Classic FM, and also other global companies like Getty Images and Audio Boom. And what I was doing in those times was predominantly focusing on sales and the commercial side, although I did get involved in the operations. And then 4 years ago, I took redundancy at a time which was absolutely spot on for me. It was in a role that wasn't panning out how I thought it was going to go. And as a lot of people, I think as soon as I started and had a bit of time on my hands, people would approach me and say, could you help me with this? Can you help me with that? So I set up what is now the Hats Off Partnership. And we focus primarily, the tagline is helping ambitious SMEs achieve the growth that they deserve. So we focus on business development, we focus on marketing, and as much as possible, it's working with smaller businesses relatively local to me. I do some of the boring things. I put systems in place, sales systems and processes in place. What does that do? At the end of the day, it's designed to help people sell more stuff, whatever that stuff might be. And I also do a lot of work behind the scenes with businesses, trying to help them define their goals and turn them into reality. And when I say goals, I mean business goals, but also personal goals as well. Where does the business owner want to be in a few years' time? So that's a bit about me. Why the Hats Off Partnership? Came up with the name 4 years ago, and there's two reasons really. One, it's all about creating hats off moments for a job well done for SMEs. Hats off to you, sir. And the other one, which is a bit more, I guess, relevant to SMEs, is that we all as business owners wear far too many hats on a day-to-day basis. Head of sales, head of HR, head of marketing, etc., head of just about everything. And part of the role I play is to help the business owners to take off some of those hats and take some of that pressure and some of that hard work away from them so they can focus on the stuff that they do best. In terms of the flavour of the businesses that I work with, a bit of everything, to be honest with you, and it sort of goes against what I'm going to say in terms of client targeting. But over the last year or so, I've worked with building companies, roofing companies. I still do some radio. I help some digital stations with their commercial strategy. I worked with a very good donut company. I worked with a boat hire company. So it's a bit of everything. And I'll talk about it more in a second. But for me, the business isn't all that important in the nicest possible way. It's down to the people that I want to work with. So today's presentation, developing an effective sales strategy for your business. Really, whether you sell products or services, whether you're B2C or B2B, doesn't make a huge amount of difference in terms of the overview, because the basics are pretty much the same. And the key objective from all of this, I'm afraid, whatever we do, whatever we're particularly good at, working for yourself, working for a small business, we all have to sell. Whether we like it or not, we all have to sell. We sell ourselves, we sell our products, we sell our services. And the key objective is always to build a robust, targeted pipeline that at the end of the day is going to help you sell more stuff. And I'll use the word stuff because everybody sells different things, and that's the polite version. What we'll talk about today, talk a bit about clarifying your offering, because everybody has one. We'll talk about creating target client groups, prospecting, the art of prospecting, creating a pipeline, and just finishing off a bit of pitching. More than happy to share this deck with everybody afterwards, and there's a couple of hints and tips that I've put in as we go along. Clarifying your offering. The basic question that we all need to ask ourselves is, what problem do we solve? Because by solving problems, that's how we get paid. And that problem can be any one of a number of things. Rob, in your case, I know the problem is I am absolutely dreadful at anything to do with design. So you can solve that problem for me because I know how good you are at what you do. But for us as business owners, it's about clarifying the problem we solve. The problem I solve a lot of the time is that the business owner doesn't want to or doesn't feel able to get involved in the sales process. And I bring that expertise. So you solve a problem, you fill a gap, whether it's lack of expertise, lack of time, lack of desire, lack of materials, lack of people, the list goes on. But by identifying the problem that you solve, that's how we can talk about your client offering, clarifying your offering to take to potential clients. I'll give you an example. This is a company I've worked with for the last 4 years, virtually since they were set up. Henley Shipping are a high-end removals company based out in Staines. And if you ask them, their clients, what their problem is, it's something like, my fragile, highly valuable piece of artwork is in the wrong place. It's as simple as that. Henley's solution, well, we're pretty good at this actually. We can move your art safely and securely to where you want it to be. Take that forward into their offering. Henley Shipping are white glove logistics experts specializing in fine art and interior design. So you can see by just a couple of different questions from the problem, we've gone straight down to what the client offering is, the company offering is. Another client that I've worked with extensively over the last couple of years is a company called Lemon Grove Productions. Husband and wife company who transfer film from old videos. So the problem they get asked or they get faced with on a day-to-day basis by clients is something like, all my family videos are on old VHS cartridges, so we can't watch them. We don't have a VHS player. Solution, Lemon Grove Productions will easily transfer them onto digital files. So their offering becomes, we help families collate and curate their family media to create a digital legacy for the future generations to enjoy. And all of a sudden, it becomes very, very clear what they're offering, the problem they're solving, and how they're going to do it. So tip from that, as you'll see, when you distill it down, you do get to a sort of a type of elevator pitch. Test it out on a real audience, whoever it is, friends, families, networking, whatever, but keep testing it, keep refining it until you're happy with it, and then stick with it. Secondly, creating target client groups. Different names for this. Robin, you call it an avatar, and I like that. I think that's a great way of doing it. But at the end of the day, this is about building up a picture of the type of client you want to work with. And there's very, I guess, factual things, the demographics that you want to work with, age, sex, social class, etc. And we can target people through that. Geography, you might have a limitation in terms of where you want to work with clients. You might want to work with clients who have a specific interest, be it the media they consume or whatever it might be, particular habits. And I added this one, the end one, values, just this morning, actually. I won't go into too much detail, but for me, one of the most important things about being my own boss is that to a certain extent, I can choose who I work with. And I think anybody who's, and a lot of people on the call have been in the corporate world, not to put too fine a point on it, we've all worked with and for idiots in the past. And I think being your own boss enables you to have a look at the type of people you want to work with, because at the end of the day, it's not meant to be any more stressful than it has to be. Then have a look at this. Look at the picture that you've painted and created, and how does this fit with your actual client base? Are you targeting right and working with the right people, or is there a disconnect between who you want to work with and who you actually are working with? If you do have a long history of trading, have a look at your client base. Have a look at your target, so your lapsed and current clients, and just check that the two are matched up. So once you've got a tip, once you've got a target client profile, set yourself some goals. And this is some of the work I did, for example, with Henley Shipping. once we've identified the type of people they want to work with, we came up with a target list of clients, which lives and breathes in the sales office. We came up with a wish list. These are the people that it's not going to be easy, but over the next year or so, we could work with, and that would take us a long way forward. And we also went one step further, and we came up with what we call a dream list. And this is a list of 4 or 5 businesses that, were we to get one of them on board, would change everything. Absolute game changers. And those are stretch goals. Those aren't going to happen overnight. These are going to take a long time. But you start with your short-term target clients and move through to the game changers on the dream list. To give you an example for that, on Henley Shipping's dream list is Chelsea Football Club. Why? Because twice a year, probably 20 to 30 incredibly wealthy individuals move in and out of the area. And for us to be able to move their house to where the new club they're going to, or move them into the area, would be incredibly lucrative. So that contract would be an absolute game changer. Prospecting, definition of, it's the process of finding your target clients. We've decided who we want to talk to, where they are, what they do, etc. And this is about turning a prospect. A prospect is a target client who doesn't know who we are yet, but it's about finding them and turning them into an opportunity being a warm lead, somebody who's familiar with your product and service, and somebody that we can look to communicate with. Objectives of prospecting: start off, have a conversation. It's as simple as that. Without that initial conversation, it's impossible to work out whether that is a client that you can help, whether you can work with, you can solve the problem that they have. And that, in that respect, you're qualifying them in or out. The numbers change, but for every client, 10 clients that you meet, probably at least half of them won't be right for you. And it's about moving those through the pipeline and out quickly so you can focus on the people who will be right. And at the end of the day, prospecting is an opportunity for you to position your product or your service as a solution to their problem. And it's coming back to the initial sides. At the end of the day, we're finding out what their problem is, and we are going to help them to solve it. Prospecting tools, phone prospecting. Really, in 2021, do people still cold call? Well, to be honest, yes, they do. And I know it gets a bad name because we've all got number of spam calls coming through every week, but a good, well thought out phone conversation allows you to show more of your personality than an email, and it introduces the human touch into the process. Email prospecting, which I'm assuming that we all do, is much quicker. It's a cost-effective way to do it. What it should be is a precursor to the phone call. It should be something that we do in the run-up to a phone call, not just the be-all and end-all. And obviously the final one, social media prospecting. Again, we all do it. Business-to-business companies, all your leads should be on LinkedIn. It's a one-stop shop. Super easy to send direct messages, super easy to link in with them, super easy to connect. B2C, use other social media channels to build your profile, build your personality, and generate followers before starting a conversation. So coming back to what we said at the start, prospecting is turning somebody who doesn't know you into a warm lead who is familiar with what you want to do. Tip, and I think everybody is the risk of stating the obvious, don't rush this. LinkedIn users are becoming increasingly sensitive about being pitched to. There's a big backlash. I don't understand it, if I'm being completely honest. LinkedIn is a sales and a commercial social media platform, but take it easy. Don't jump in with a pitch, would be my advice. Bonus hint, set yourself some realistic goals. You're not going to, in one phone call, close a £250,000 deal. A quote that I quite like from Desmond Tutu: there is only one way to eat an elephant, and that is one bite at a time. Take the process one step at a time. So creating and managing a pipeline. A pipeline is the list of the clients that you're working on, that you're trying to get towards that point where you can actually do some business with them. But it's important to understand where they all are, where your prospects are within the sales process. The inverted triangle clearly shows the numbers. You need to prospect a lot to get a few clients won, but to take them through that process, lead qualification, meeting, be it face-to-face, Zoom, whatever, actually putting a proposal in front of them, what you will do for them, when and how much it will cost, negotiating, and then the big tick, the client one at the end. Everybody's sales pipeline will have a different shape, but all of you and everybody will need to put a certain number into the top to get a much smaller percentage out of the bottom. Make it work for your business. Everybody's different. I mean, those are sort of 3 or 4 broad stages that I think hopefully you can all identify with, and you can see where your clients would fit into that. But make it work for yourself. Define the stages of your sales cycle. You might want to add into their networking, for example, which obviously is what we're doing at the moment. Work out how many opportunities you need to put into the top of the funnel to get out the number of closes, the number of successful client wins at the bottom. And you can only do that over time. I've looked at mine. I think it's around about 10, 12%. So if I were to put 100 into the top, then I'm only going to get 10 or 12 out of it. But create your own process. Build a strong database from your target clients, the avatar that you built up, and plan your calls and polish your pitch. As I say, unfortunately, it's a numbers game. I hate to break it to everybody, but not everybody will end up buying from you, using you. Therefore, that's, as I say, you need enough target clients in the top to get enough sales out of the end. But in the words of Journey, don't stop believing. It is hard work, but as with everything, perseverance pays off. Tip, it is a numbers game, but bear in mind the strength of your pipeline is also about the quality, the type of clients that are in there. Don't chase every single client. Mistake that I made when I first started, probably still do it now, to be fair. Remember your ideal target list and try and be true to that and stick with it. Bonus tip, tailor this process, as I said, to suit your individual business. We've got a wide variety of businesses on the course today. Tailor it to make sure it works for you, but please, please, please remember the basic principles, because that's what does work. Pitching. So what is the sales pitch? The sales pitch, pretty straightforward. It's a way to explain and present your product or service and its value to your potential customer. It's about features and benefits, and it's about bringing to life what problem you can solve and how you're going to solve it. I've spent a long time working on different pitches for my business, and I overthink them every single time and tweak and change and all the rest of it, which is what I'm advising people not to do. But you do need to have quite a few bits in your armory. You need to have the traditional face-to-face pitch, be it your elevator pitch, which we've talked about, or a slightly longer traditional presentation like this. You need to have the Zoom pitch. You need to know the limitations and the advantage of Zoom and make that work for you. You need to have your phone call pitch, which probably is a bit quicker, and you need to get to the point a lot sooner. You've written up your email pitch, and you've refined that and tweaked it and changed it until you're happy with it. And then you've got your WhatsApp pitch. There's probably another 10 that I can add on to that. But if you start off with your elevator pitch, because you've agreed that that is what you do, that's the problem that you solve for people, you can then expand it out into bigger, more detailed explanations of how you can work with a specific client, what you will do, and how you will solve their problem. One tip on that, and I know I've just said that some presentations can be longer than others in some formats, but Twitter has changed it for all of us, and it's massively shortened our attention span. So question, what would your sales pitch be? What would your elevator pitch be if you had to keep it down to 140 characters? It's an interesting exercise. I read a document the other day which talked about customers putting their sales pitch, their positioning down into a single word. Beyond me, I must say, but 140 characters is probably about right. There is, however, just before I finish, one trump card at your disposal, something that we probably, if we're honest, I certainly don't make enough use of, and that is referrals and recommendations from happy clients. And this is one of the strongest sales tools that you could possibly have. There is nothing wrong with asking people, is there anyone you know that I might be able to help as well in the same way as I've helped you? If you have a minute, would you mind giving me a Google review for Google My Business? Would you have a minute to write a review that I could use on my social media? This is all helping you at very little cost in terms of time to get in front of new clients and be recommended by somebody that you've done a good job for. It's absolute gold dust, and I know we'll say it. Some businesses are very, very good at it. I'm not, being completely honest. So after having written this presentation, I vow to get better at that. But I'm very lucky. One of my clients that I work with, Henley Shipping, they are very, very good at referring me to people. And I've probably picked up another 4 or 5 clients off the back of direct face-to-face referrals. So please ask the question, what is the worst that can happen? Somebody says no, that's it. Thank you very much for your time. I'm not sure how long that took, but I hope there's been something in there for most, if not all of you, that you can take away. As I say, more than happy to share the presentation and send that round. Jackie, you let me know what I need to do on that. But thanks for giving me the platform, and thank you for the invitation, guys.
Well, thank you very much, Dominic. Just to say that this presentation will be on our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to just catch it there.
Cool.
We're now going to go on to question and answers. So I'll hand over to Rob.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Jackie. A great talk, Dominic. I thought it was fantastic. I really like your the wish list and the dream list. I thought that was really good. Yeah, we have a few questions. So one question here. What are your tips of getting people to open your emails? How do you reach? What's the first thing you do to actually get them to actually open that email? We're all bombarded by emails every day. What's the sort of tip to actually get them to open it?
There's a few things. Good questions. There's a few things there, and one which is not in my area of expertise, so I do get help on, is in terms of how it's sent and avoiding it going into spam boxes, and that I would consult with an expert on that, because there are certain do's and don'ts. In terms of the sort of the content, I think a catchy headline, a catchy title, obviously is good. I think try and put yourself in your potential client's shoes and work out, in amongst the 100 emails or whatever they get a day, what is it that's going to stop them scanning down and just hitting the delete list.
Okay, brilliant. Another one here was about getting people contact details from LinkedIn. Obviously, you can connect with them on LinkedIn. Is there a way of getting their actual contact details from
people? It's good. Another good question. People are really funny on LinkedIn, and I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on this. It just never stops, never ceases to amaze me that people go on LinkedIn because it is a business-based social media platform. They then hide. They won't give you their email address. They won't give you any contact details. What is the point of being on there if you don't want to be spoken to? I think people are genuinely worried about being pitched to. That's part of life, I'm afraid. I don't think you can beat anything apart from a very, very nice and polite request. Make sure that any messaging you do on any social media platforms, but LinkedIn particularly, make sure there's something in there that tells the recipient that this was written specifically for them and it's not a cut and paste job. Yeah.
Okay. Good advice. There's a couple more questions. I think one was about the difference between what WhatsApp pitch and a phone pitch, but I'm guessing one's written, I suppose, and one's
yeah. I mean, the point of that was just trying to get everybody thinking that different mediums require different approaches. And when I said WhatsApp, it's probably a written version of your elevator pitch. But in all those, I think it's worth taking the time, unless it's a mass email out of 100, 200, it's worth taking the time to try and personalize it. We all get bombarded by different things, certainly on LinkedIn. And if somebody's taken the time to sort of look into my business and come up with something that will catch my attention, and I know it's written for me, then I'm much more likely to accept that.
Yeah, perfect. I think the last question I have was about defining one's problem, which obviously is quite a hard question, really, but just about, I suppose, any tips on how you I think all of us, all our businesses probably solve a lot of problems every day, but do you have any tips on actually how you might define the problem in the first place?
Well, I mean, the problem in the scenario that I was talking about was it's the potential client's problem. It's what they have or what they need doing. So in my world, I worked with a local roofing company, a hugely successful roofing company, and he's been in business for 36 years, and he didn't want to sell, basically. He was quite happy to work on referrals. He did that bit amazingly. He didn't have a website. He didn't have any social media. So I was able to do that for him. So the problem I identified with him was he didn't have the time or the inclination to pitch himself forward to potential clients. I was able to help him with that, with the help of some other specialists. And now he's in a position where he can talk to potential clients through either his website, through social media, through an email campaign, whatever it might be. But that was the problem that we identified. And it's not always obvious, but I find that with a conversation, a general business conversation, you can pretty quickly get to the point where you know what they need help with, and then you can make a decision as to whether you can help or not.
Yeah, brilliant, fantastic. Any more questions from anyone?
Any ideas of how to get people's WhatsApp's details? I mean, that's a bit challenging, isn't it?
Ask politely. I'm afraid I'm not sure there's a shortcut on that. I mean, at the end of the day, all of this falls down if somebody doesn't want to be spoken to. And it is difficult. I spent a lot of time on various projects prospecting hundreds of people for a software software application. And if somebody doesn't want to be spoken to, pitched to, there isn't a shortcut to be able to do it, I'm afraid. But what I would say, that comes back to my point about who you want to work with. If somebody that doesn't even have the politeness, to put it politely, to respond to an email, a well thought out, tailored email, just to say thanks but no thanks, is that the sort of person that you want to work with long term?
Good point. Thank you. That concludes our meeting. And thanks again, Dominic, for a fantastic talk. Really, really good. And just to reiterate that you'll be able to see recording of that presentation on our YouTube channel. Feedback's very important to us. So do engage with us on social media. That's Twitter, Instagram, and of course, LinkedIn. And of course, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. So I'd like to tell you about some of our forthcoming meetings. Christmas is coming. Yes, that's right. And to celebrate, we're having an online wine tasting on Wednesday, the 8th of December at 6 o'clock in the evening. And this is going to be hosted by Tim Collis from Laithwaite's Wine. And this relaxed event will start at 6 o'clock with open networking, followed by the wine tasting at 6:30. And you'll be receive the tasting samples, these lovely little bottles or cans, a few days before the event. And Tim's going to introduce the wines, and then he'll be illustrating them with various stories. And the wines will include sparkling white, rosé, and 2 reds. And for those of you who don't drink, Francois, please take note, there is a non-alcoholic option. It sounds very good, great fun. The cost is £20 per tasting set. Do go onto our website to get more detail. Looking ahead to the new year, on Wednesday, the 12th of January, Paul Shaw from Business Doctors will be giving a webinar, How to Have Your Best Ever 2022. This short talk will help small business owners identify their challenge, think about some solutions, and start to construct them into a practical set of actions that will help them to start the year as they mean to go on. So that sounds really good news. So you can get information and you can book for those on our website, www.wearebiz.co.uk. So look forward to seeing you all next month. So it's goodbye from me, Dave.
Goodbye, everybody. Lovely to meet you, and fantastic, Crystal, that you joined us from Canada today.
And it's goodbye from Rob as well.
Bye, guys. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks. See you Friday.